Hey, happy Friday. It's been a little bit of time since we uh, congregated here through video, and it is Friday afternoon. It's about 3:45 here on the East Coast. Really good weather here for the spring. Hope you're doing well. Real stuff, real change. Services. Um, Back in the swing a little bit. Had a little bit of a slow down. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you have to adjust. Sometimes you have to take time off. Um, Sometimes you have to step away. Sometimes you have to take time out. Time out. Um, you just need to change it up. And we live in an environment and a society that's go 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 and do, and it doesn't matter if you live in a big city or you live in a rural suburb or maybe you live on a farm. I mean, actually, farming, from what I know, I've heard. I never farmed. I don't claim to ever own a farm, but farming is tedious. I mean, it's like 4 in the morning, you're up, and that whole thing with the rooster, and then you're just doing, you know, chores, and then once you're done that, then you have to, if you do cattle. So it doesn't matter if you live on a farm or you live in the country, or we are all susceptible to just doing and going and grinding. That's what I call it, grinding. It's so easy to wear ourselves out. So we had to adapt and adjust some and do some things, and even traveling out of town to the beach was still exhausting. So it's like, you ever heard the statement, "Oh, I need a vacation from the vacation." With that in mind, that's kind of how our brains work. When we're in this, consistent mode of doing things, I hear people say a lot, "Well, you know what? I've got my routine down," and I'm like, I used to think that was a really good thing. And I think having good habits, and being consistent and being disciplined are all really good, healthy things to do. However, when they become so unconsciously available to us, when we just snap our fingers and we just kind of go through the motions for weeks on end, for months on end, sometimes for years on end, sometimes people do it for their entire lives, it is then that we become unadaptable, unadjustable. We can't make a left turn when we always make a right turn. And in those moments, that is when the brain has become stuck, or you've become convinced that what you do is the grind, or the patterns, or the processes. That's just kind of the way it is. And some of us will never make any type of adaptation ever, and we'll end up living the next 20 or 30 years, if we live that long, in that mode. And then we'll become sick, or we'll become older, and we won't be able to adapt or adjust. And it's at that point where we're like, wow, what could we have done? And then we don't want to get to that point. We want to work on it now, so we can actually enjoy the opportunities of change and adaptation. So why do most people not know what they do? I mean, most of us just kind of go through the motions. They kind of check in, check out. It's almost like punching a time clock in life. No matter what you do, whether you work at home or you work in an office or whatever. But why do most people not know what they do? And why do we make change difficult? Why is change so difficult? We hear it all the time. Change is really healthy. Change is really good. And then some people say, I don't ever want to change anything. I want my routine to be exactly the same forever. And then we wonder why we don't learn new things, or we're afraid of things that are uncommon to us, because we're so habitually trained to stay safe, or to survive, or to walk a certain way. It's like going to work. You go the same way to work every day. Well, if you do that for 30 years, your brain is stuck. And you could say, no, it's not. I do this or that. It's stuck. There's a stuck There's a matter of fact, this is what we do. Don't ever try to make me do something different, because if you do, I'm gonna like fight you. I'm gonna come back at you. So if you think about this unconscious processes in your life, and again, habits are good, discipline is good, but when it gets to a point where it's just strenuous and habitual to the point of where you're either bored or you're tired or you're unhappy, how can you and I create healthier ways of thinking or doing or possessing something, implementing something that's going to help us kind of recharge, reframe, redevelop, recreate, whatever word you want to use. And the two words I think about are adapting and adjusting. Those are the two words I think of: adapting and adjusting. If you watch sports, quarterbacks at the line of scrimmage, and of course I don't watch football anymore, but this is my best example to people. And the coach on the sideline, the play is not going to work. So the quarterback in the middle of the play count changes the play. He goes, you know what, we're gonna call an audible, and he adapts, he adjusts, he sees things that are not going to work. So he says, well, we're going to try this, and whether that works or not is not the point. It's the idea of stepping into that moment to change the trajectory of what's really happening in that moment at the time. So I want you to think about what life itself is like without adaptation, and adjustment. So without change, you and I are nothing more than like a robot or a machine you put a quarter in, who just kind of goes on a loop or a program, like just kind of like, just kind of responding, doing. It's almost as if we had a switch, we could just turn it off and we would shut down like the lights. Without adaptation and adjustment and change, we shorten our lifespan on this earth. In other words, you eliminate yourself from reinventing yourself. And I'm talking about the smallest adaptation, like changing your schedule for 15 minutes during the day will ultimately help you live longer. Or taking a break, or spending time doing something that's not on the list. And without change, we convince ourselves that the way that we act, the way that we were taught, taught, what we learned from our parents, or we learned from our culture, or our grandma or grandpa, which there's nothing wrong with what we've learned, a lot of stuff, but we're taught that this is how it is. And there's nothing anybody else can do for me. This is the way I am, and this is what I was taught, and this is how I'm going to live. And so we create an imprint of, we basically limit ourselves from having any type of adaptation or adjustment added to our lives. And so this is how we think, and this is how we know, and this is how we're going to function. And without change, we're probably going to wake up 20, 30, 40 years later in our lives from today. We're going to wonder a lot of things. We're going to wonder why life is still hard, not fun, not fulfilling, not engaging, not inspiring. We don't like life. Life is difficult. It's strenuous. And bear in mind, in 20 or 30 years, a lot of us will be done with our careers, and we'll be hopefully doing what we want to do, but we'll still have that wonder why life is still hard. We may wonder why we're alone, why we're divorced, why we don't have any friends. We may wonder why we're sick. We have illness, or we have weight issues. We may wonder why we have financial problems. Any of these things, because our life hasn't gotten better. As a matter of fact, it's gotten more stagnant, more grinded out, because we have failed to adapt or adjust things into our lives. And so adaptation and adjustment is not a survival technique. I think we're taught, well, we're gonna I'm gonna adapt here and survive another day, but that's not what it's for. That's not what it's for with the brain and with helping us with our emotional contentment and wellness. It's rather a means to creating a happier, healthier life. And if you're like me, I need that. So for the present and future. And so if you think about some ways that you could present yourself differently, you might change one thing in your daily routine, for 15 or 20 minutes. Instead of having to go through all your work at the office in 3 hours, you might break it up into an hour and a half and take a break. You might sit in a different place in your office. You may do different family activities. You may mix it up. You may, you may do something that's going to change the normal progression of your day in order to give yourself an extra spice or something that's different. Because what happens is the brain responds differently. Insanity, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But by adding that one or two little things in, that can change the entirety of how you feel during that day, how you respond during that day. So if you don't believe me that adaptation and adjustment is important, I'm a prime example of someone who worked hard all his life, grinded it out. By my 20s, I was burned out, and by my 20s, and so with the help of people in the church, becoming a Christian, but also from a lot of emotionally foundational things like Faster EFT, tapping, and learning how to love me through God and through these other aspects, I came to understand that my life cannot be controlled by a list or a routine. It had to be controlled by being able to adapt and adjust and add or subtract things that are going to best help me be the best I can be overall. So if you don't believe me, check out our website. There's a story on there about us and our lives. If we all have different paths, but we all have the same type of representation when it comes to getting stuck in patterns and routines. And the best way to keep yourself from becoming ill from stress or sick or unable to change things is to learn how to adapt, learn how to adjust in ways that are healthy and are productive to making your awareness and making the life you want be healthier. So with that, hey, just wanted to share that thought with you about adapting and adjusting, and hope you can take just one or two little nuggets from that, adding into your day or week. Love to hear what you're doing to change it up. And if you want to know more, just reach out to Real Stuff, Real Change. We're partnering with a healthcare company called Sanavi here in Charlottesville to help people reach their full potential. So feel free to reach out to me and find out how we can help you, either individually or soon to be a group collaboration service that we'll have available to people who just want to get help, but maybe not want to spend as much money doing it. So with that being said, I hope you have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, take care.